Ooh, I'm feeling good now, guys. We got the game and the series of the week. It is Bliss versus GZ. You just know it's going to be good. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Production doing us solo there. Crushing at the moment. Fido's looking pretty good. Yeah, Fido's looking pretty good, actually. Yes. But no, there's a lot of silences going on. Every time I see Harry, sort of just, I feel bad. I'm like, do I need to be quiet right now? He's very intimidating. All those stats we've been getting, Skimmy, he's been making me scared to talk.
But I love it because we've got like the classic gamer pose, which is always this one, which everybody hates, like, do something new. So then they're doing all of this, right? Like, yeah, look how edgy we are. And then you just got by like, there, like just going full crazy. Yeah. I love that.
But it's going to be a big series, Tally. I think we've got a lot to talk about for this one. There's both the top teams. They're both feeling very confident. Is there anything we could expect to see?
I think we're going to see a really fast draft because assumingly the top three teams you think of Ground Zero, Bliss, Antic have all been streaming each other repeatedly. They should know each other back to front. I doubt these teams have been hiding anything from each other because you don't really get to verse each other that much in the regular season. So I assume we're going to see a very fast draft, very fast bans and picks.
Well, let's have a look at the rosters. Let's just jump straight into it and have a look at what these teams are packing, because you know it's a lot. It's almost maybe too much. It's a full loadout at Bliss, looking so good and fierce. Aladoric's back in form. We've started seeing the Rakan again, Skimmy, but this whole team's top form.
They certainly are. Yeah, last week we saw the Rakan, as you mentioned. They've also dabbled with the Senna Ornn, which is the exact same for Ground Zero 2. The only difference we've yet to see is Bliss are yet to pick up the Camille themselves. We certainly know that Bio can play it. It's just a waiting game as to whether or not they will. But I think the informed player right now, above all else, would be Harry. Had a fantastic last week. And as we saw on, like a little player check-in yesterday, he features in the top 3 for what it was kill participation, gold difference at 15, solo kills, as well as overall team damage percentage. So really strong spot to try and contest that of Ground Zero.
But look at this team as well. Absolutely monsters on the field too. Tian's just been having a field day in this top lane, so Biopanther's got a little bit of work cut out for him, in my opinion, but as well, Schönfire in this jungle has been making plays, and Lemus, as always, the stats are so inflated almost with this player. Would you not say, Tally?
Yeah, definitely. Schönfire said it himself in the interview we had with him. He mentioned that, they haven't been versing the top teams in our league. So a lot of the stats that we are seeing from this team, the fact they are, the first in majority of their categories across the league is because they aren't versing the best competition in the league yet. And right now, this is probably the best competition in our league. So we have to see, will they be able to live up to the potential of these stats?
That's what I'm pretty keen to see. Hopefully they can live up to it. We do have so much high hopes for these. These are the two teams that I think we all put at the very top of the actual tiers to say who's making it to PCS. So I think the question is how the performance tonight we really show up against the PCS and the LJ. I think this is where we're really going to see what our teams are capable of and what they can pull out. But Skimmy, we did also see the Skarner top, which I know you've been absolutely thriving and enjoying, and Biopanther was able to pull that out. Are you hoping for that again today?
It depends. I think it really does depend as to what the read is, as to do we want to try and play for a big wombo combo team fight, or do we need to really put a lot of adherence to the side lane threat that we've seen time and time again from these top delivering teams. So it's a hard one to say because both are undefeated, 6-0. They've both been versing teams below their ranks, very much near the bottom of the table. So it's hard to really get a true representation as to how strong they are coming into this matchup tonight.
We mentioned looking at the bottom of the table. Now we're going to be looking at the top of the table as let's look at our head-to-head of this top lane, Tian versus Biopanther. Tally, you got to talk us through this.
Yeah, just a lot of numbers you're seeing on your screen right now, but I think, the important statistics you always want to look at when you look at laners is like how well they do with the CS department. I think that Bio as a player always leans more towards the the Jax, the Skarner, not so much these like really strong laners, but I'm gonna absorb as much pressure as possible and then be a strong side laner or a strong team fight. When we look at Tien, he is getting a lot of resources put into him by his team. He's getting a lot of ganks. He's playing these really strong side laners, and that's the reason why he is leading right now for most of the stats.
Yeah, it's almost a very different playstyle too, is what you mentioned, is Tien likes to play for the damage to really take control of the game, where Biopanther, very much a facilitator, very much making sure the team is looked after and keeping them in check, and I think both have their place. But let's look at the teams back to back and see how they've both been looking as we head into this next series. And I'm excited to see this, Skimmy, and again, look at all the first, second, first.
Well, across the board, as you say, it really is very Ground Zero leaning at this point, right? And you can see that just across the board, be it turrets, gold differences, and just objective control, they have been incredibly impressive in that regard, right? The biggest standout for me is the plates per game. We're still talking about the fact that 12 plates have been going down per game. It just showcases how strong these laners are, and if they're able to get an advantage, just how far ahead they can push that lead, which then falls into the idea as to, well, why are they up by 6,000 gold by 15 minutes? The plates go down at 14. No surprises there, right? They're just getting so much gold on the map. So much like we saw in the series the other night, where teams were so, repellent to the objectives, they were just never keen to try and entertain them. Obviously, you can't preserve these stats forever, so I'm really keen to see what is valued. And if we continue to go for this trade of like one team goes for the Drake, the other goes for the Grubs, or if we are going to be contesting for literally everything tonight.
Well, you literally hit the nail on the head of what I wanted to talk about, is these teams are so objective focused. It doesn't even feel like, in the last series in particular, we saw a lot of kills, a lot of pressure. They just wanted to scrap a little bit more. Classic OS meta, but these two teams seem to be the difference. They like to come in, they like to take control of Drags and Grubs as well, and it really pushes their leads so much further. So, Tally, is this the next step for Oceania, do you think? Are these teams leading the charge?
They're definitely leading the charge, but once again, I want to reiterate, it's hard to tell like how strong these teams are right now, because a lot of their opponents just haven't been the strongest in O. So I think when we look at a lot of these stats, they could be inflated. It's very easy to have a really high objective percentage because you have 3 winning lanes all the time. But I think when we look at Bliss, they haven't had the strongest early games all the time. But when we look at Ground Zero, we haven't really seen them lose an early game yet. So we have to see what that team looks like if they fall behind.
Well, we have Bio Panther, or Bio Daddy as I like to call him, on the line, joining us on the desk. Mate, look at you again. Fine, sharp. Wait, did you get a haircut?
Yeah, I did. I got it short because I was like, I just need to cut it short. It was too hot nowadays, so yeah. Wait,
it's got a heater on right next to me. Ooh. Too hot. Nah, that's just your good looks. That's what that is, Bio. That's what that is. Right. But mate, how are you feeling for tonight? It's a big series. You guys prepared?
Yeah, I think we've been preparing quite well, and I think our early game slumps have been like our biggest weakness, and I think that's what we've been working on the most. So I feel like if we can get to the team fights, get into like the thicker things, we'll just win it.
Okay, I'm pretty keen to see that. I think that's the one thing we've sort of mentioned is those early games is not that you're playing it bad, but I think like, there was just the refinement, and I think you guys have been working really hard at that. We have seen such big improvements, so I'm really keen to see how you fare up against Ground Zero. Now, we talked before about you versus Tien. You feeling confident into that matchup? Do you think he's going to whip out a Camille on you?
Well, I think he's like probably like the second best top in the league. Like after Lived like being like left, I just think I think he's grown a lot as a player overall, and I think he's like really good. So overall, I think he's going to play his Camille or Poppy most likely. So I think I'm ready for what he picks. So.
He's just been playing the same ones, but I'll hand it over to Tally now. I know he's got a question for you. Thank you, mate.
Yeah.
So, Bio, welcome. So, in our very small sample size yesterday, you were voted the most enjoyable teammate to have in solo queue by your peers. So, what do you do differently in solo queue? What makes you stand out compared to the rest of the league?
Oh, I just have fun. Like I don't see it as a big deal. I don't really tilt, and I just click the fill button and then just play all the roles and just have a good time. Like I just like playing the game and trying to learn the most. And I just think that like tilting in like solo queue is just the worst thing ever. It's like a natural thing, but at the end of the day, it's like you can do so much to like prevent it, in my opinion. So.
This is what I was trying to tell Pike. It's always about enjoying the game before targeting a rank.
That's the biggest thing.
How do I untilt Bio? You need to teach me.
Oh, just like try and not take it as seriously, and go back to like the fun. Like the fun is all that matters. Like when you enjoy the game, it kind of like the tilt kind of just disappears, in my opinion.
All right, so I need to embrace my inner child and realize I played League of Legends not to show up my mates, but to have fun. Okay, noted. I'll pass it on to Skimmy now. I know he's got something.
Welcome back, Bio. Always excited to see you in action. I'm sort of keen to see what you're bringing to the table tonight, right? Obviously, you've had so many bangers over the years. I think the one that always stands out to me is going to be your performance at MSI, playing the set, doing some crunches, really bringing it to the, what was it, Unicorns of Love? Great memories back then. But what is the focus tonight, right? Obviously, we talk about Tien has been playing this Camille, been playing this Poppy. We know you have an encyclopedia of champions, and already the split, you've been flexing between like your classic tanks into the Vayne as well. So is the focus tonight, we must get to those team fights because your mid to late game, I think, is probably the best in the league right now. Even if the early game looks a little bit shaky, is it a case of we need to play the best comp that gets us to that late game?
I just think it's like I just feel like we kind of just have to like play like the most consistent comps. That's what I feel like right now. I think we just have to play what we're good at and like get back into the rhythm of the game and like how we like to play with each other. Because I think that's the biggest problem. Because like I can whip out a Vayne a game, I can whip out all this stuff, but it really depends on like our draft and like our consistency. And I think our consistency is the one thing that's really shaky. So if we can get that on the roll, then I think we will open up everyone else's champ pool.
I believe. I'm a believer.
Yeah.
I'm a believer.
Thank you.
Now, before we go, I have one last question for you because this one's a little bit more fun, right? I think one thing you've helped me with my tilt. I no longer tilt, which is fantastic. I feel like I've been healed.
Immune.
I want to know, do you have any like pre-game rituals? Do you do something before a game?
Oh, I kind of just like do some breathing exercises, but I usually just think about the people that I'm like playing for. Like I just have like a reason behind why I'm playing, and I just have like so much like support behind me. So I always have like that backing for me. So that's why I always feel like confident in my games. I just have like that reason. So that's it.
Oh my god, you're the Oceanic Gandhi.
Oceanic sweetheart.
Too much.
How can you not like this man?
Like, yeah, I can't help it, man. Like, I gotta take you out for a brunch or something. I've offered a couple players brunch now. I'm gonna be broke. There's so much brunch going around. Well, Bio, thank you so
Anytime,
much.
man.
I'm gonna stop digging this hole that I'm in. Thank you for coming on, and good luck in this series tonight, mate.
Thank you so much. You too. Thank you. Bye-bye.
I
Gotta stop offering brunch, man. Every week.
He's locked in.
It's brunch. But no, he's feeling good, right? I think Bliss has definitely learned from the last couple of weeks. They've identified what they need to do, and they're ready for it. I think this whole time they've been prepping for this one series. Would you agree, Tally?
Yeah, and it's nice to hear that they have the same thought process about like their weaknesses that we do. We always thought that like they just struggled with the early game and they were just a really good mid-late game team. So they've been working on their early game, and it's good to see that like they're shoring up the little holes they had in their armor, and get excited to see like, is this a fulfilled team now?
Well, I'm curious to see how it's going to go, but Skimmy, do you think there's anything that you might be excited to see? You mentioned the Vayne. It could be a Rumble. We were sort of looking at Bio, sort of like his champion pool, and it's definitely a lot bigger than Tien's. Do you think they've maybe drafted something a little bit funky to react to that?
I don't know. I don't know if they need to do anything too wild and wacky. I would imagine it's just a case of making sure that the Camille does have an answer towards it, as opposed to going unchecked like a lot of the time it has been going. As long as they've got that, be it Hayri playing a Yone, or Bio playing like one of the bruisers, be it the Jax, or Renekton that we know is obviously very proficient at as well. I am very curious to see what their approach will be, and that's sort of why I asked the question, right? Are we all in on having to make sure that our early game is strong, so we put Ground Zero behind and they're left scratching? Well, how do we get to mid game without our 6k gold lead? Or is it all about like, we just scale, we will get to late game, chuck me an Ornn to get level 14 for the ornaments? That's sort of what I was curious about. So I don't think we'll see anything too wild and wacky. I would be surprised if it were to come out, but I would imagine it's going to be comfort across the board. Probably like, your Aladoric on Rakan, Violet on his best champions, right? Anything to make sure that, yeah, they get the precious 3 points.
Well, you mentioned the comfort, right? And you mentioned Aladoric, and I was actually going to try and work our way down to the bottom lane. We've been sitting up the top for a while. Do you think we're going to see another Leona, though? Tally, you played with Aladoric. Do you think, is he comfortable on the Leona? Do you think it's something we could see?
Very.
Iron Solari Aladoric. Like, just remember that is his skin. If he locks in Leona, he will be running that skin. He is very comfortable on the champion. I think he is probably one of the better Leonans in our region. He is extremely comfortable in his melee versus melee matchups, and I think, with the Warmog meta coming in, this is where he shines.
Okay, so what could we expect to see then in this bot lane? Like, if Leona's the pick, what would you be pairing with it?
I think
plan?
with both these teams, it's going to be a very, like, if Lucian Nami is in the game, we might see that, but if not, we're going to be seeing, like, Nort versus Leona. We're going to be seeing, like, I would be excited to see an Ezreal from Violet, but knowing him, it's going to be, like, the Kai'Sa, the Tristana, the Zeri, just these stable scalers, because as, Bai was talking, they need to hit that stable style, find the consistency so they're able to hit the mid-game.
Okay. All right, you've given me a lot to think about, right? Like, so when you guys get into draft later on, I'm just going to be sitting there being like, I'm predicting this, and then no one's going to know that I've predicted it. But funnily enough, we're in fighting form. All of us, all three of us are in fighting form. There's someone else who's also in fighting form.
He's always
it's
fighting form.
Fighto, the mid laner for GZ. Looking sharp, mate.
Fighto!
How are you going, my friend?
Pretty good. Excited to put on a show for your birthday.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm excited to see this show because now you're hyping it up a little bit. If you put my birthday into it, now I'm just excited. But how are you ready to go? Has the team been preparing for this? This is the sort of the series for the whole time right now.
Yeah, I think everybody's excited to play. I don't think anybody really knows how it's going to go because it's gone both ways in practice. So it's just going to be a really exciting game to play, and I'm just going to try to be the better player on the day.
Well, we've heard pretty good things about you in the scrims as well, that you've been doing all right. Like, so you're feeling pretty confident in your matchup with Harry?
I don't know if you've been listening to the right sources, if you're hearing good things from scrims, but I'm less of a terror in scrims. I don't terrorize as hard as I do terrorize in solo queue, but look, we play as a team. It's not really an individual game, so we'll just see how we match up today.
All right, yeah, Tally, I know you got something.
Yeah, and you've mentioned it a bit, but I want to check in on your confidence in the moment as a player because I think this is your first real test as you are coming back to the LCO, and so far you haven't really had to match up against the best of our region yet. But I think that Harry is in a very strong form. So how are you feeling coming into this matchup?
I mean, I'm a big advocate of playing without nameplates and just treating the game as Tristana versus Corki or Oriana versus Zia, whatever it is. So. But I do find my mind drifting sometimes when I verse slower teams and I see my whole team's winning. I try to, I'm reaching a little bit too far. So yeah. I think today will be a different showing for me.
Awesome. Well, I hope you have a good performance today.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
I do also think, Skimmy, that he's just given us he's just given us the draft, right?
Yeah.
No. Because my question actually is about draft, Fido. How good does it feel? Like, how humbling must it feel to come back into pro on the reigning champions of the LCO and every single game get targeted with 3 mid lane bans? Like, that must feel like, okay, am I the star of the show? Am I the super sub that's coming to this roster to replace Kisei?
I think it speaks more about the quality of coaching staff that we have because they've come up with a strategy and people are looking at different ways to counter it, and triple banning me is one of the ways to counter it. It's obviously not working yet, so yeah, I think you just got to give props to the coaching staff. I don't think it's anything about my individual form that those 3 bans are.
Humble as ever.
Humble as
what a champion.
I was going to say, yeah, it's like, how often do you hear like a lot of the players just going and be like, nah, it's the coaching staff. Fido, you're the one playing, man. You take it with strides. You're playing awesome.
Thanks, Benby.
Yeah. Thanks, Benby. Yeah, appreciate you. Well, Fido, thank you so much for jumping on, mate. It's been a joy again. You know what? I'm going to send you some good vibes. I'll take you to brunch for my birthday. Thank you again, and good luck out there.
Thanks, guys.
You know what? There's one thing I've noticed. This is just my pure psychoanalyst, probably my ADHD or something. The top tier players and teams, humble. They're just going in for a good time and just want to play for fun and to win. It's so good to see.
I read some study the other day. I don't know how true it is if I got clickbaited, because obviously so much misinformation on the internet nowadays. Somebody posted a thread that was basically saying lower ranked players tended to be more aggressive towards women. And it's like, if you're actually really good at the game, you couldn't care less. You're like, I'm good. I know I'm good. I don't care who's on my team. And it just seems like every single time we get these really good players, they're just like, yeah, whatever. He's good. I'm good. We're both good. That's why we're undefeated. Life goes on, and everybody else, if I ban away to Nidalee, maybe we'll get drafted Zone. It's just so all over the show. So it's just great to have back-to-back players in Biopanther and Fido, both so charismatic, both a lovely chat.
It is great to see, and I think we need to see a little bit more of it. I think that's the big thing. That's the difference between a proper pro player, and that's why these teams are some of our favorite. But let's look at some GZ stats. We had to look at these a little bit more. There's a lot to break down here, and look at that again. This is GZ versus the world, Skimmy.
So, confirmation, LCO is the best region in the entire world. You've had all this time now, LEC, LCK, LPL, everybody else to start playing your games. But you can't beat Ground Zero. Let's forget about the fact that they're inflated because they've been versing the lower end teams. Quickest game, most plates, most kills, most gold. And they call us a minor region, eh?
Best team in the world.
Damn.
That's scary. Bliss have a tall task ahead of them, so I hope they prepared well.
Yeah. Well, we talked about preparing as well. Let's look at some champions that have been prioritized in the top lane as well. And look at that. Bio's just feeling so good. Every week he's played something different. And then Tien's like, nah, I'm sweet. I'll just play the same. It's fine, Tally.
Yeah, I think this goes to show the stats we saw earlier, how Tien is playing these, Poppy, very strong lane bully, able to get these leads by herself, and then Camille, when in the counter matchup, especially with the jungle intention, very easy to snowball into a position where you can take over silence. So we look at Bio's pool. It's a lot more methodical, scaling, not so aggressive in lane, minus the Vayne and the Rumble, but it's just all about, I can fulfill the role my team needs. I trust them to carry.
Well, let's have a look at the side selection as the game is so close to being ready, and let's just see where these teams are looking to go. Both blue side, Skimmy. It's what we sort of expected.
Yeah, I think this makes a little bit more sense on this series. I think both teams are going to want to try and really lock down their best champion and then build the entire comp around that. So whether or not it's going to be a case of just locking in an AD carry right off the bat and saying, right, we're going to build protect the Aphelios comp or whatever it may be, I'm not too sure. We've seen different variations of that, right? A first pick of Nautilus, perhaps like a Senna, even the Ornn, sometimes even the junglers. So I'm sort of curious to see what these two different teams have as their read. And finally, a chance to see some top tier LCO action and understand, okay, stats have been padded, now let's get the real truth.
The truth tells set ye, I almost said set ye free. Wow, League of Legends on the brain. But
old English is too hard, man. That's why it's old English.
Do you guys see that? Do you see what's up in the corner over there? Of course, it's your Twitch channel points. You gotta put those predictions in, support your favorite team. This is the big one. I would love to see how many points, and I'm gonna be looking very intently at how many Twitch points are put in. Tally, please go put your points in, man. I know you need to get a little bit back. But while we're talking about Tally struggling with his points, I'm gonna keep calling out for it. Let's look at what our predictions are for today so we can get into this game for you guys.
I thought you said you were a Bio fan in the interview.
I'm a Bio fan.
But that doesn't look like it on the prediction.
I'm going off the inflated stats.
Ooh.
Oh, best team in the world.
Yeah. Look, if they get this, I look like a genius. If they don't get it, then I'll just, you know what? I'll pass the torch on, and that's fine. But you guys are going both for Bliss. How come, Skimmy?
Well, for me, if it goes to late game, Violet is the 1v9 machine. Every single time he's been in the LCO, if it goes late, you put your trust in him. He'll go flash, cleanse, even on the weak rosters that he's been a part of. As long as the team got it to the late game, he's always stable. He'll always win. I think with the pairing of him back with Valadoric, they've been the best bot lane in the region. Whether or not they can establish it again, I think it's going to be a great little test into Lemus and Kurak. So I'm just all in on the Violet Aladoric show.
All right, Tally, I'll let you go. Then I'll give you my real short reason, and then we can get into a game.
2 reasons. Number 1, I think Harry is in very good form right now, and it's hard to go past the fact that he's showing expertise on so many different champions. And number 2, Lemus has had months and months and months, but he's been unable to achieve Elden Lord status. He is still a lowly Tarnish, whereas we look across at his counterpart, Violet. Elden Lord, multiple months sitting on his throne, ready to just, look down upon Lemus, who just hasn't achieved the same status as him yet.
Says it all, really.
Look, it's as simple as that. I've gone GZ because I like being different, and I think they're the best. And I just think, fair enough. I think there needs to be a little bit more. But the game is ready. I'm going to hand it over to you guys. I'm going to let GZ do all the talking for me. Go have some fun, and I'll be here waiting for you guys.
Well, let's jump into it. This is your match of the week. This is the one you've been waiting for, and it's taken 4 weeks for us to reach this moment. But now we get to understand how strong these teams truly are, and the deadlock for outright first will be finally broken.
And I want to know, Skimmy, if there is a midi meta going on between these teams, because, based on these bans, we're seeing a lot of the first picks being removed. Is it the case of, are we going to see, Leona first picks because they think this champion is extremely strong? Or, is it very standard going forward? But we are seeing the Leona hover, and it's locked in for Aladoric.
There it is. We did wonder if it was going to be a case of locking in a really strong support to get the ball rolling, or if it were to be that of the AD carry. Is this going to be a snap response then of saying, we'll just lock in the Senna Ornn and keep you guessing as to how we want to build out this comp? The Camilla's hovered there by TN of all people. They did ban the Jax as well as the Rumble, whether or not that's an indication that he just wants to continue to play these two champions.
Yeah, so we see the Camilla locked in straight away. So TN is like, Bio, you don't have an answer for this champion, or if you do, I'm happy to skill check you in this matchup. The Jax has banned, the Rumble has been banned. I don't think Bio has any bruises besides the Renekton. If they want to pick that in the first 3, that'll really match up to this Camille strength in the mid-early game part of the game. But I think once again, he's picked this champion. He's going to be uncontested in the scaling department.
So he will be. Senna there to come as well, so plenty of scaling is the name of the game here for Grand Zero, whether or not they feel like they need to bring this one to a late game to match the power of Bliss, which has certainly been their strong point this split. Let's see where they decide to go with next, as Evelyn does, I say Evelyn, even just confusing that. Kevy hovers the Evelyn, his trademark champion from many years ago. certainly not in a position to lock it in right now. And there is the comfort. We talk about Leona for Aladoric, Kaiser for Violet, and they're going to be a very happy duo.
Yeah, I would say this is like, you know, going back on times past to when you think of Violet Aladoric at their peak. It's these really aggressive combos that they get to play. They find these kill pressure, all these kill angles early, and you know, pair that up with the Nidalee, which Kevy has had so much success on in the earlier weeks. I think Bliss are really happy with their first 3, but looking across the Rift, Ground Zero have got exactly what they want. They have the center on, you know, the we can ignore you guys bot lane. We have the global pressure for Tien because he is our carry right now.
Yeah, well, they've gone for the first pick of it. They've banned away the Jax. Now they're Renekton too, so you really are limiting the options as to how you can shut this one down and how it can go punished, and whether or not it actually is the responsibility now of Biopentha, or they will put the onus onto somebody like Harry to try and find a split-pushing answer. They're going to ban away the Kha'Zix, and speaking of junglers, Schönfire has had a big tendency to lean towards the AP champions. Only 1 game of AD, and that was on the Kha'Zix, so not taking any chances here.
And I will note, Skimmy, it is kind of scary. You know, we saw in our yesterday's matches how hard it was to play the Lilia into this lockdown, and I think that, you know, going against the Leona Kaiser, it's really hard to walk in and find those angles if Schön does want to lock in this champion to like be that solo AP threat for his team. But once again, I think Bio's really hurting when we look at these bans, and you know, Schön has gone for the champ. It's like, okay, I can't really dive into your team, but I still want to play this strong, you know, solo AP threat, and he's locked in the brand.
Yeah, certainly one of his premier champions. We've been asking, where's the brand gone? It was so strong for so long. You said it's a little bit underrated. Why is it being forgotten about? And Schön's going to bring it back and say, I'll show you why it's so good and why it needs to be played again. Akshan getting denied as well. Yet another ban targeted towards Fido, who, as he mentioned in his own interview, pretty happy that those bans are being put in his direction because it hasn't proven to be successful just yet. Out comes the Skarner. You'd imagine it's going to top lane with the Nidalee already locked in there for the jungle. So it then certainly does fall upon Harry to find an answer with the Yone tonight as well. What answers this Camille?
Yeah, I'm very curious to what Harry wants to play. I think he wants to be aggressive, you know, pick something with some form of CC to match up with the Nidalee, even though if it is the AP, does decide to go for the Hwei, so he can be that solo AP, well, not solo AP, but that, you know, control mage threat. And I think a really good answer to the Skimmy that we've been seeing popping up overseas is the Varus. You know, allows Brand to be the solo AP threat. You can match it with that long-range harass, and I think there are so many squishy champions who can get blown up if the Chains of Corruption do land.
And you know what we know about Fido is he loves the cheeky mid lane Varus. He's hovering it as you say it. And he could just say, I've played it before. It's been done on stage. I'm very comfortable with it. Let's do it again. It is perfect for this draft.
This is why they pay me the big bucks, Skinny, because I know these teams back to front. And we're very excited to see that pretty much every player in this game is on their comfort. They're on one of their better champions. And when I look at the Bliss team, though, the one clear standout that we've seen in times past, Kimmy, is they have no side laner besides, you know, like the Kaiser to be able to match up to this Camille. So how will Bliss deal with Tien if he does get ahead in this laning phase? Are they going to send their duo to match the top laner in the side lane? Because if that is the case, they're going to lose so much control of the map.
That they certainly are, and this is a really interesting situation to find ourselves in, right? You as the blue team have opted to go for this incredibly aggressive bot lane and have had pretty much all the counters denied from Grand Zero there to protect Tien. And I'm curious because, you know, benefit the doubt has been afforded to them when it's like, well, you haven't been up against the strongest opposition. Maybe they're not well versed in it, unsure how to counter it, but these are your 2 top dogs tied in first place right now. And it really is going to be a case of, well, if it gets ahead, is that all she wrote? Is it broken enough to just automatically win at this level?
I think when we look at the 1v1 though, I would give it to the Skarner in the laning phase. I think until Camille finally gets those items, you're going to get stat checked by how much damage Skarner has in, you know, the base damage department. And the fact he can rush that Sunfire if that's what he chooses and be a bit stronger in the like early game leading up to was like the level 11, level 13 point where Camille finally gets those 2 items and can start taking over when the true damage can really blow up the tank.
Well, these are our 2 comps then, and as you already mentioned, plenty of comfort across the board. You've got incredibly quick clears from both the junglers to try and deploy into the map as fast as they can to find a little bit of impact and to add a little bit of volatility. And that certainly has been my key phrase of the day, stolen away from yourself there, Tally, in terms of what lanes to look at, what should the viewers at home be excited for, and what timers should we be keeping in mind, right? Are we looking for, you know, another clear case of, you know, 15 minutes in, X team should be ahead by this much gold, or is it going to be a case of, you know, they need to really lock in and focus on their laning phase more than anything? I
think key points to pay attention to this game, Skimmy, is, you know, when we look at Ground Zero in times past when they played this center on, Lemus was roaming a lot. He was sitting in top lane, making sure Tien was ahead. He was leaving Ornn on the island, and when we think about roaming, we think about Romadoric and how strong he is on this Leona in these skirmishes, because I think if Limus gets found out by the Leona and an Italy Spear, he's going to get one shot. And as you do see Aladoric sporting his skin, the Iron Solari Aladoric, I think Limus should be afraid going for these roams, because someone who is, very proficient at matching these roams is going to do a really good job at finding him caught out in positions.
He certainly will be. Not looking to make sure that support gap is the difference on this occasion, as Schönfire is actually going to get flashed upon. Instant stun on his face. He's not going to use the flash himself right now. He's just going to simply perish. Fallen down, concede himself for it. Even chucking out the Q there, straight into a pause. Say it ain't so, but it will be first blood, and that gold is picked up by Kevy.
I don't think this is going to be anything more than just a pause into a continued gameplay, because this is scouting skimmy. This is what happens when you start the game in the same position over and over and over, back weeks back to back, and all of a sudden you versus a good team has done their scouting and they run there and they punish you for it. Schönfire goes to walk into the mid lane bush to find a little bit of cheese, or maybe get a little bit ahead of the vision line to spot someone out. But Aladoric and Kevy on top of his head, even if he flashes, Kevy can always follow that up. The Severin Bolt comes out of Harry if that was the case where you need to use it, but they pick up the easy first blood, and that's going to snowball the early game for them.
Yes, certainly is. Well-versed research. Great objective picked up then. Or a great little bit of gold picked up, I should say, for Kevy to really accelerate his ability to clear and make sure that this Brand can't just do, cheeky shenanigans across the wall. How many times do we see from the red side at least, right? A Brand just trucks over a pillar of flame, snipes away a cheeky little grub and says, oh, yeah, no, I've done enough. And, just speeds around the map and continues to be a bit of a bully. Certainly has, on many occasions, been the sole AP threat and has been a force to reckon with. So hopefully this pause is nothing too severe. But do you think that really changes too much in the early game, or is it just, part of the course?
It's part of the course, Kimmy. I don't think anything will change. Brain will still clear at the same speed. He's going to be up before camps even spawn. I don't think really getting that little extra PP, if he was the one to pick up the first blood, will really change anything in the game. He's going to get up his Dark Seal on the recall, which is, nice for him. If a skirmish happens, he can snowball it extra bit harder, but doesn't really speed up his clear any much. The only main point to take away from this is that, if Kevy does find himself in a skirmish happening in the early game, he doesn't have flash, so he needs to be really conscious about not mispositioning.
That is the key takeaway, right? The fact that Schönfire showed a bit of restraint, said, oh, I think I'm dead anyway. If I burn my flash, they just flash to follow, and then really, what do I actually gain from that one? So still was going to have the ability to be hyperactive, and is obviously showing so much restraint on this occasion here as to, are they still waiting? Did they plant any wards here? Can I actually start this red buff without a leash? As for Aladoric, though, he knows too much, and we'll go back to base, get the sweeper ready, and come out to clear the vision to protect Harry a little bit more.
Yeah, so it sweeps out the ward, which, when we have less than 3 members showing the ward experience level 1, Harry, as a solo laner, will hit level 2 on the first wave, which is really important for how his matchup works. But we can touch on the fact that Fighter decided to go for the press the attack. When we used to see this Varus mid, we always think about the the Comet or the first strike, and just using that poke as Limus being found out level 1 by Aladoric, but he does not have the ignite.
He does not have the ignite, burn it before, but this is a really nice Hex Flash play. The cleanse is delayed, and that slight delay is just enough for Violet to be in touching distance. Gets it done. We talk about comfort champions. Man, they're on vacation. It's so effortless.
Yeah, and I think that catches you off guard a bit. You don't expect Leona to Hex Flash into your bush, If it was a Flash criminal, I understand, because you can trade that, but that's the Hex Flash. He already blew that level 1, and this is an advantage he got from losing the Summoner early on. But I wanted to touch more on this mid lane and how it's going to work, because Fido with the press the attack might mean he goes for the on-hit build, because they might be worried about the front line coming out of Bliss. If he does decide to go for the the poke build with this rune, I could still understand that, but he's going to get a lot more value if he's aggressive in lane with this rune.
Yeah, lethality has certainly been a bit of an issue in many games gone by, right? And let's check in with the bot lane once again, as Curex under a lot of threats so far as well. I mean, down to 150, completely zoned away from the wave, which is seemingly pushing against them. They are unable to step up to this wave, and Limus, as well as Curek, unable to get more than 1 CS.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that Bliss have total control of how bot lane functions right now, because if they want to freeze, Ground Zero have to walk and put themselves in a acceptable position, and Heavy is piling down. They can play for this fight, and if not, they can crash the wave and play for a dive as well, or they might invade Schönfire. It's completely on them what they want to do with this game and what they think is the best way to snowball right now.
So many options, maybe a little bit of option paralysis as to what is the best play. Don't tell me we pause right there. The Hex Flash into the stun. You see Curak like a deer in the headlights thinking, uh-oh, I'm in danger. He's already down to 50%, and these pauses, man, they kill me.
Yeah, and we see Aladoric, throwing his eyes up into the air because he was like, oh, I finally found a kill angle, but unfortunately the pause comes through, so a little bit of thinking time here. Both junglers are in the back pocket of the bot laners, so this could go either way based on how aggressive or how much they overcommit. Kurak still has access to the flash, so if it does end up being an all-in, he should be able to live.
I will say though, if it were to be a fight that favors Bliss and they get out unscathed, it certainly helps the Kaiser obviously evolve that much quicker, become that level of consistency which Bio on your screen right now mentioned in his pre-game interview, and also for the Leona, helps them rush towards that coveted, Warmogs, gets them even more aggressive, make sure that, if you are going to be roaming on that center, not only am I strong, but I can endure the amount of aggression if we make it a 2v2, make it a 3v3. So it is a bit of a tightrope walk here in terms of, obviously we want to farm, we want our Ornn to become pretty beefy, but all these conditions are going against us. The wave is crashing, the wave is pushing against us. We've got our jungler hovering in the area, but I don't know if that's going to be enough.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if it'll be enough either, Skimmy. I think that blowing your flash while the wave is pushing away from you could put yourself in such a dire position. But I'm also curious to what build Violet wants to go for this game, because, when we look at the Kai'Sa, we're used to seeing the AP build. We see the Kraken into the Rageblade into Nash's with the full AP follow-up, but I think there's a bit too much AP on his team this game for him to be able to do that. Yeah. So is it going to be the 80 iteration that we haven't seen yet, which I assume will be the Kraken and the Flicker Blades into the normal crit items of the Infinity Edge and probably the LDR? Is Kai'Sa a good, champion who builds crit, or is it this champ only viable when she goes for this on-hit AP build?
Well, it's a good consideration, right? Because certainly in other patches, there has been a lot of variation. Let's get back into the action and see. Oh no, it's a tragic flash. He died in mid-air, and it will go unscathed.
Kevy.
Instant TP back, but the wraparound here from Kevy, looking for damage onto Lemus, down to 40%. Schoenfire with the Pillar of Flame, not to be found. And now, you know what? Jungle camps, they don't exist. We've already cleared the entire map.
No flash.
Let's make this a 3v3 right now. Aladoric, once again, using his Hex Flash literally on cooldown. He is not afraid of anything, and that's Zenith Blade, mate. Come on.
Yeah, they don't care about this wave. They know that they have the Summoners advantage over the Ground Zero side right now, so they're not too worried. Actually, they don't need down Summoners right now because they've been trading so much. But they have the health, they have the power right now, just how strong the Kai'Sa Leona combo is. If any CC lands from Aladoric, it's going to equal a kill.
But certainly will. A very scary position to find yourself in right now. So much so that we aren't even talking about our top lane head-to-head matchup, which we're quite excited for because everywhere else is exploding into life right now. Spear, as well as that damage from Harry, it was coming thick and fast, and it's enough for Fido to be bullied out of lane and then flash to safety topside.
Yeah, and that's double crab for Kevy. In a long time ago, this used to be very important for the jungle, getting the double crab. Nowadays, not that important, but it's still an advantage to pick up for Kevy and, seeing how the AP jungle is going to work. He's already found himself that first blood. Now he's got the camp lead. He's going to base. He's going to be able to pick up the alternator and just be really accelerated when it comes to his clear speed.
Going to be incredibly fast, and it does beg in question, okay, well, what can Ground Zero do? You mentioned it before, right? They've been so strong in the early game. The first 15 minutes, nobody holds a torch to them. But what does it look like when they are behind? How do they stabilize? Who rises up to the occasion? And who's the real driving force, that catalyst to get them back in?
Yeah, they don't really have the ability to, okay, we can sack this lane, we can dive this lane. They can't really play to anyone and snowball the game anymore because if the Camille doesn't have enough damage to take down the Skarner with the Brand, what can they really attack? Because their bot lane is supposed to be their, we concede this lane, we're just going to scale and allow our mid-top to be stronger. I think their main region of attack is going to be around the mid lane and really using the Chains of Corruption to punish no cleanse.
Well, certainly going to have to be the hope at this stage, right? Between the 2v2s. There is a lot of damage that can come out from this Varus and Brand. Plenty of CC to add to that as well. And if Harry offers them that opportunity, it could certainly be their saving grace back into this one. As it stands though, Schoenfire locked inside this jungle, full stick clear, full stick shadow those lanes and understand where could things be happening next. Lemus on a classic center roam, out of base and straight into top lane. Looking at Bio, who's completely unaware of this happening right now. Gonna take all the time in the world to guarantee that route connects, but it doesn't happen. The Impale goes out, drags away Tien, and Skarner gets away with it.
And that's so big, Skimmy. This was Ground Zero's plan of attack when we saw this combo in the past. It was just about Lemus roaming, using the center to just walk around the map and assist his team as much as possible and find his kills, but they didn't find his kill. And now Kurak is left under turret with Schoenfire, and I'm not sure these guys will be able to defend this 2v3.
Yeah, it makes it brutal for Schoenfire, right? He's just forced to then try and gank. Oh, what a flash! But the buffer was already there. Aladorica's always following with that Zenith Blade, and that is a bit of an angry moment for Schoenfire, who will be up in a few seconds, but now Kurek's under siege, he's under threat. The Zenith Blade the second time around misses. The plates are already going on down. The wave is trying to be trimmed. The exhaust comes out, cycled through the unsealed spell, but the turret didn't ramp up enough, and there is no trade.
I'm going to give Aldork the benefit of the doubt there. He throws the Zenith Blade wide to bait out the E from Ornn, so that he has absolutely no way to outplay the dive as they go for it again. And we see the damage coming out of Kevy. Doesn't even land his mark onto Schoenfire, but just absolutely blows him up thanks to the alternator. He has so much damage in his inventory. Have to see it, coming out of base. They want to contest this as, we see the ult go down the buy, but I don't think they have the damage, Skibby.
Second time they've looked to try and make matters worse and really target the Skarner, but for the second time in a row, he's just able to run away with things, right? Nobody's looking at this dragon so far. Granzero with a little bit of like, well, we need to stabilize. We're already down 3,000 gold this early on. We're going to make a play towards these grubs. 2 found so far. Schoenfire, straight up a reset, is dead again. And this is not what we're used to. He's 0-3, whilst Kevy, is in Wonderland, 4-0.
Yeah, and this is what I talk about, Skinny, when I always say if you play these AP junglers, pairing them with the melee supports is night and day. Lemus doesn't have the same threat or setup that Aldork has right now. That comes from Kurak, but he's stuck in the bot lane farming minions because he is the one getting CS this game. The amount of power coming out of Kevy right now and Aldork and how strong they are, we see the Sork Shoes plus the alternator. They're going to keep following Shern around the map and just making his life a living hell.
He doesn't get to play the game. So much so now that, these lanes just do not exist. And look a little bit wide with that next Zenith Blade attempt. You can see 2 fights taking place on your screen. The 1v1 with the top lane is the red buff, as you highlight, denied and picked up by Kevy. And, at this point, he has the most gold in the game, and Shern is just fighting for scraps.
This is a 2-level lead and already more than a 4 camp lead. He is so on the clock. Kevy can absolutely take it this game. We always talk about how, Nidalee is a champion where you need to have this high skill ceiling. There's just not room for error. But when you're this fed, it really doesn't matter what you do. You don't even need to land your spear anymore because you're doing the most damage.
You really are doing the most damage. Going to be exacerbated by the fact that the red buff is there as well to make it even easier. And Kurek's life is pretty miserable now because Violet says, watch this! Flash for flash, we'll match that! And I'll grant you your 3rd death, but my 3rd kill.
And this is not what we expected at all, Skimmy. We expected a very close early game. We expected Bliss to be the one struggling in the early game based on, times past, but they've said they've been practicing this. This is their, area of something they need to improve on, and it looks like they have had monumental strides in improving the early game.
This is incredible. It's absolutely mind-blowing to see that so far in this game. It is 7-0 in Bliss's favor, and very quickly we found ourselves up by 4,000 gold, and you're really struggling to find a lane or a way to get back into this one. You talk about the fact that Tien needs time. All those bans, bear in mind, were committed to make sure that he could get ahead. He's the only one now, alongside Fido, that is yet to really be involved in anything.
Yeah, and we see Fido going for the Murktras, going for the triple dagger, so I can probably see the angle of him rushing like Wit's End because he believes, there's so much AP damage coming out of the trio in Kevy, Harry, and Aldork that he can go for that Wit's End, get the tenacity, and just be someone who can frontline for his team in a semi sort of way. But we see the Dragonfly happening, Skimmy, and I think if the Bliss members arrive here, this is something they want to take.
Kurek's already committed in, and he's overextended as a result of that one. Aldork not going to find the engage he's after. Is he overextended as a result? I think they may just leave him to his own devices and say, that's a sacrifice we're willing to make. You can have the dragon, and you can have one little straggler on this occasion. We're not willing to throw it all away. So, nice little opportunity for Granzo to claw back something into another pause. Very sad.
Damn it, Skibby! Well, I think based on that setup, Kurak had the Call of the Forge God, whereas Violet's ult was still on cooldown from the solo kill he picked up in the bot lane. Aldork is still level 5, so when the Zenith Blade goes wide, it just isn't the setup that his team needs. There's a lot of skill shots coming out of his team that need the lockdown to be guaranteed to land, and when that misses, it's just much easier for Ground Zero to play these little skirmishes.
What I'm curious then now, I suppose for both of these teams to be in fairly unfamiliar territory completely breaks the mold of what's got them to this position so far. Yes, we can talk about the strength of schedule, but ultimately, Ground Zero are used to winning early, used to then being able to do really as they please, even subbing out players in the middle of a series, right? Whereas for Bliss, it's a case of we've made all these changes to the roster as well. And whilst it's been a little bit of a rough period, a little bit of growing pains, we found what works for us now. We found a way to be more consistent, and obviously the ability to play your comfort champions is going to aid that even further. But to have complete opposites in this game one, it's mind-boggling.
Yeah, Yeah, but I would give it to this team that they are experienced in this scenario because, you know, the only thing we see as the viewers is the stage games, but there are a lot of scrims happening behind the scenes, and I assume you Ground Zero has not been winning 100% of their scrims. They have been put in positions, especially against Bliss, where they are behind in scrims, so they are experienced in playing from behind. It's not just a foreign thing where they're the best team in the league and they don't know what losing is like. They are used to being in this scenario, so they know what needs to be done.
Well, let's see what they can get done, because still a monumental lead favouring that of Bliss so far. Not going to be the quickest in terms of rushing towards any soul point on this occasion, but the next spawning of those grubs will be up in about 30 seconds. 2 went the way of Ground Zero last time, so maybe they can find a few more to aid their attempts to get back into this one. We'll have to wait and see, because Kevy and Eladorok are linking up beautifully, as is usually expected from them. And it has so much actually forced out a bit of a lane flip.
Yeah, and this is a good way to be to attack the fact that Tien is on the Camille and he's going to be the side lane who gets ahead. Be proactive about your lane swaps. Make sure you're always putting your bot lane on the objective, or even follow his Camille around, because Bio got the wave in. He's going to be able to get a free plate with his time as the bot lane. We see Eldor trading flashes, but he might fall down to Shonfire here.
Really
Double
nice
TP.
flash though from Lemus. The root doesn't connect, but I don't think it really matters right now because he's under threat from literally the entirety of Ground Zero. They all come together as a 5-man unit. And for the second time in a row, look to take down Eladorok.
I think Bliss might be happy with this trade because they got a grub, so they were able to deny Ground Zero getting as many as possible. Kevy steals away another one, but Correct doesn't have the ult yet to punish it. We see both solo laners from here. We see Violet ulting out the turret onto Fido actually, so he's trying to be aggressive on the weak side.
Ooh, does Violet survive on this occasion? Nope, you can't outplay that one. Point and click, lock him inside the cage, and Tien takes him down. But all the meanwhile, it was Harry freely pushing in mid lane, and then the same could be said for Biopamp, who managed to find the first turret of the game. As Kevy now, with the assistance of that teleporting way, rocks up and says, you know what, I've had enough of this PvE gameplay. Get me on the fold, boys.
Yeah, we see Bio pick up the bot turret in its entirety, so he's going to be the big winner from this entire trade. A lot of gold going to him, but Tien does manage to find 2 kills, so he picks up his Triforce. He's now online. He can start, playing for these side lanes if he wants to. We always have to be conscious about where the bot lane of Bliss is moving around, because this is their main point of attack. Their main engage is Eladorok, so if we just keep eyes on him, wherever he goes, we'll see action happening.
We certainly will do, and whilst he won't have the most gold in the game, as is to be expected of a support, but he's certainly linking up with somebody that does, and that is Kevy right now. You can see 4 Bliss members leading the charts as to having the most gold in the game so far. Only Fido is second to none, as in goes Schoenfire, saying, I need to claw my way back into this game somehow, and maybe an invade is the ticket I just need. He thinks it's enough, and with the protection of Tien pushing in that wave, I think he may have been right, but he's forced to burn the flash and nearly dies again to Kevy pouncing.
Yeah, it just feels like everywhere Shern goes, there's just a member on Bliss ready to pounce on him. Quite literally, Skivvy. So it's something to be concerned about when, your solo AP threat just can't really get the resources he needs to. We look at the inventories of both junglers. It's monumental, the difference in the inventories right now, Skivvy.
It really is, yeah. It's components versus full items into nearly more at this stage, right? Lich Bane with the Dark Seal. How many stacks does he have on that one? Let's just double check. 7 stacks, so basically an item and a bit more. And look, we do joke about the execution, and ease of execution shouldn't really be too hard on Os, but this Nidalee is putting on a bit of a performance so far.
Yeah, definitely. I think we have seen Kevy in the past play this champion, but not as well as he is playing it right now, and I think that's thanks to this comp that they've drafted, Doesn't really have synergy with the Hui in mid lane, doesn't really work that well with Skarner into Camille, so he's, put a lot of tension into bot lane, and he's snowballed thanks to that.
And he certainly has, because that's where we found all the action so far. 7 kills between those two, as Bio in that bot lane right now is under threat. You mentioned that the Skarner should have a relatively okay time in dealing with this one. Really nice Hextech ultimatum, but it's not enough! You can see the tilt in the camera, visible frustration there by Tien. And that's a massive win for Bio.
Beautifully played by Bio there. A lot of people would miss what he did. He used his E at the last second to stun Tien on the wall, which means he's queued to the true damage that he needs to kill Bio. Times out, and he's unable to find that kill when he's going for the dive. But this is what we're going to see in this 1v1 with the side lane. Tien can constantly just chunk down Bio and eventually play for that kill angle. And it's so nice for Bio to be able to find that kill, because he's going to be able to get these items to really navigate how bad this matchup's going to get for him.
How crazy would it be, right, if you were to say you can ban away everything and then still lose on the Camille? What a world we'd be in if that were to be their ace or their trump card finally being dissuaded after all these weeks as we now finally find ourselves a Rift Herald, and Kevy instantly deploys it into the mid lane.
No flash.
Solar Flare goes out. There is the damage. Instantly on top of that, Killer Instinct, the spear doesn't connect because the Impale drags him out. And for Schönfire, look, we know you're fantastic at Brand, but for this game, it's just not hit.
I think that was blind, Skimmy. I think they had lingering vision on Shern from the blue ward near the blue buff, but I believe that ult was blind. Finds the CC onto Shern, he doesn't have flash, and it's such easy follow-up. This is what I'm talking about with the Kai'Sa ultimate. They have these kill angles that are just so hard to avoid when you're playing these mobile champions.
Yeah, so difficult to navigate this, right? So much mobility between the ultimate of a Kai'Sa and the ability for the Hui to hit you from a million miles off screen, and Bio just to come out of a wall somewhere. And you figured, how is that possible? Let's see from the replay.
Yeah, he had vision, Skimmy, so he's not as good as I thought he was. But still an easy kill there in the end, even committing the Impale to guarantee the kill, because there's not a lot happening on the map right now. You know, the objectives are down, so it's completely fine to commit as many ults as you need, because you can just go back to farming, wait till the cooldowns come back up, and play aggressive again. I think it's I think it's nice to look at Fire's inventory right now, because he has recognized that, okay, there's so much, you know, AP damage coming from this team right now, so he's going for this very tanky on-hit Varus build. The damage he does won't really be there right now, and I think that he might lose out in 1v1 to a lot of the strong side laners coming out of Bliss if Violet does want to match him, but he is going to be a very tanky champion.
Let's see what he can do if a fight were to break out, and this one yet again is there to favor that of Bliss. Curex is the second one on the chopping block and very quickly falls on down. Violet gets it done. He's now 5-1-3, only to be outdone by his jungler who's 5-0-3, and together, them combined, they are a wrecking ball.
Yeah, this trio of Bliss is just doing so much on the map. It's really hard for Ground Zero to walk in river to try to get any vision, because everywhere they go, there's a solar flare, there's Hui poke, there's a spear, there's just so much damage they need to avoid, or CC that comes out of this team. As we do go into the replay, you know, Shern hits the plant. He feels safe. He only sees Aldoric right now, but he just doesn't really have his team. Where you see like Bliss engage and ignore Kurak completely. You know, Violet tanks up the entire Ornn combat, but there's just not enough damage there, especially with the Nilly heal coming out of Kenny right now.
Yeah, that's frustration, right? You're thinking this is meant to be your farming Ornn that should be super accelerated, but it just didn't materialize from the bot lane, right? It's 0-4 now, really rough 10 of events. And for an 80 carry, just to say, yeah, you can hit me. I have flash, but I don't even want to burn it. That's got to hurt.
Yeah, definitely it hurts. But, you know, when we look at the game state right now, there is a big gold lead for Bliss, and I think there is majority in the mid trio. I think when we look at the side lanes right now, it will favor Ground Zero. I think that the Varus and the Camille in the individual 1v1s are going to be pretty happy with how they push. But we see Fido sitting in the mid lane, you know, sharing experience with Lemus. Lemus is going to get those souls because Fido values the gold a lot more than experience. You know, I think it's nice that Ground Zero have put Ornn in the side lane where you can get solo experience, catching these waves against the weaker side laner in Hui, and make sure he can get to those ornaments as soon as possible.
Absolutely, as we go into our fourth pause of this game. Real sorry, guys, for the delays in this series, and I'm sure for the players as well. I mean, having been in these positions yourself, maybe not to this extent of interruption, but it must be, especially when you're on the receiving end of all this in Ground Zero's position, right? It must feel so agonizing to be like, pause, interrupt the flow of things. Let me just play out the moments, and it's constantly being interrupted. There is no rhythm.
Yeah, it's definitely very frustrating when you feel like you're hitting this momentum, especially as the Bliss side. Like you have this momentum from finding all these picks, but there's just constant pauses, and you have to like sit back and wait for these technical issues to resolve themselves. It is a slight breather for Ground Zero though. I will say, like, they can relax a bit because the game is paused. They can think about like, okay, how do we approach this next section of the game? Just unfortunate in general that pauses happen. Can't really help it most of the time, but it is something you have to deal with.
It certainly is something you had to deal with, and we do love our internet down here in Oceania. I will say, though, towards your last point, right, you mentioned that Ground Zero should have the edge when it comes to the side lanes, primarily through this Varus and Camille. But to obviously cover that, to provide them with the ability to execute that well, what does their free man then need to do? Because at this stage, you're looking at the center, Ornn and Brand, and saying they aren't that big of a threat.
Well, best case scenario is in the individual 1v1s on the side lane, Ground Zero are able to create leads, whereas the Bliss trio in mid will always rotate to the side first. So your one plan of attack is you create the lead in the side lane, which means their trio will rotate. You need to slowly follow that and just hope that your side lane will, you know, win or slightly win a bit more. So when you finally rotate and get that 4v4 going on in the side lanes, their health advantage or the whatever resource advantage you're able to manage in the 1v1 means you're going to win that entire skirmish.
So what I'm really getting from this one is you almost need these players to rise up to the occasion. They need to showcase that we've not really been the focus this game. Arcadia is looking pretty protected for the meantime, but it's time to get our hands dirty. Time to really showcase what we're made of and, give Bliss a little bit more to think about because, yeah, as it stands, it is just up and up for Bliss and is really no signs of slowing this trio down.
Yeah, and we get to look in on the play cams as well during the pause, and we're seeing sort of a lot of smiles, a lot of laughs coming out of the Ground Zero side. So they're not too worried about the game state right now. It is pretty bad for them based on like how strong Team Bliss will get with these items that keep coming into their inventories. We see the Rage Blade stuff in Violet, which means he is going for that on-hit AP build. So there might be a bit of concern with a lot of damage share coming out of the Bliss side. We see the 3 AP members, and does this mean that if enough magic resist comes out of Tien, comes out of Fighter, that they just won't have the damage?
Does that warrant the need to pick up a Hex Drinker, for example? Let's see if that's a real consideration here, if they will just continue to optimize towards as much damage as possible just to try and really, at least, if they do fall down, at least they go swinging as we do finally get back into the flow of things. Fast approaching 20 minutes into this game here, Tally. Up by 6,000 gold nearly is Team Bliss. Very much in a comfortable position. 10 stacks of that Dark Seal are there. And you do wonder if Kevy, still deathless, is thinking maybe this is a game for Magi's.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's always a book angle when you have the ability to, purchase that 10 stack Magi. I think the item itself is not bad when you die because you get 4 stacks every kill. So it fills up very quickly, and one team fight can mean you hit critical mass straight away. But really nice to see Bliss grouping up now because the Baron is spawning in the next 30 seconds, so they want to break the map open.
Let's see what they can get accomplished, and as a result of this one, Biped baiting the entire team stun locked by that ability for a crab to be in a bush. So then they say, let's just entertain it. The tower falls on down, and so do the members of Ground Zero, but not before Aladoric dies.
Kevy.
In his pursuit of happiness, Kevy jumps in, he does die, and the shutdown is found by Shern of all people. Look how low he is. The same could be said for Kurak, but he's just a scratch their grass in the meantime. What are we doing here, Kurak? Entertaining the idea of a cheeky Void Seeker, but it wasn't enough to take him down.
Saved by the Ocean Dragon, Skimmy. The percentage tick that comes in every so often heals him up from the Void Seeker so he doesn't fall down. But that fight was really well played by Bio. Look at him on the side, just zoning off members, creating as much space as possible for his team. We see Alador completely blow up Lemus with only Harry's poke, so it's just completely taken out of the fight. And I think it's really nice by Bio with how much pressure he's putting in this fight, recognizes Violet still has the killer instinct up, so he flashes in to make sure he has CC onto Schoenfire.
Really well done. Really, really well done. Completely zoned out the Camille for as long as he certainly could warrant. And look, I'm loving it. The fact that we are seeing more and more of the Skarner getting played and getting shown that, in top lane it's viable and that in the right hands, it can certainly wrestle with the best. Even if all the counters are there and denied, it doesn't ultimately matter. Let's see then if this does actually convert into any kind of Baron pressure. This is simple enough for somebody like Kevy to say, yep, straight to the Dragon. And maybe it was a good idea that he didn't convert that Dark Seal because he was the first one to fall.
It's definitely a good idea that he didn't convert that one, Skimmy. But that didn't feel like a 6,000 gold lead in the team fight, did it, Skimmy? Because that felt a lot more even, and Ground Zero had a really good job. And I think in these front-to-back scenarios, when this Varus is doing damage, when Brain is able to spread his pass as much as possible, it's not going to be so one-sided. And even though Kevy is really strong, it's very hard for him to play his team fights when he doesn't have access to the Zonyas and he can finally pounce in on that spear. But we see Harry might be caught by Fido here.
Let's see then what happens between these two mid laners in an outright 1v1. The shield, the healing, the damage is just not enough to compare with that of Avaris. He's got the Wit's End as well as those Merc Treads, so he's got that resistance, and he really did shrug off a lot of the damage that Harry had to go on through. Second shutdown, and back-to-back found by the brand. Exactly what Shern needs.
I think they're just absolutely throwing the game, Skimmy. A bit of an overextension of slightly from Harry, and they have so much Baron burn, so I don't know if they're going to be able to contest this, but it looks like Bliss want to try.
This is crazy. Don't say it's so that Ground Zero claw their way back into the late game. We completely flipped the objective of what this idea has been. It's an objective bounty for Ground Zero. That's how far behind they are so far. Camille jumps in, looks at Kevin and says, can we get him? I can't do it on my own. Kurak goes in for the headbutt, locks him with the CC. The chains connect, and Lemus is the benefactor. That's his first kill of the game so far. Bio, the next lamb to slaughter. And it really is as simple as that. Ground Zero straight to Baron.
They're going back to Baron, but Skimmy, they don't have their turn tools once again. If Bliss want to go for the contest again with the Hui poke, it might be a lot easier than it was the first time around.
Let's see what they can do. Alador needs to offer them some vision first and foremost, and then check in how low is this Baron. Already getting closer and closer to smite range. He's Violet's going to commit. He's going to jump in. The objective bounty has been claimed. He's buying as much time as he can afford to allow the respawns of Harry and Violet to go crazy with it. He jumps into the pit, does Violet, an absolute madman. But he overestimated the damage from that Hui ultimate. It wasn't the despair that they were hoping for. Now he's kiting and padding and hoping to get somebody next. That next rotation of cooldowns just simply weren't enough. And only one Baron buff is removed.
And this Varus looks so strong, Skimmy. The build we were talking about, he is so tanky. He can do so much damage in these fights because of how tanky he is. We saw, Ground Zero don't even care about the Baron. They turn off straight away. They know Kevy's a target. Doesn't have access to the Zhonya's net, so he's so easy to lock up. CC change, easy pick up for Ground Zero on this fight. And there just wasn't, the respawn time is coming out in time. Violet is still dead when they're walking back to the Baron. So with the DPS coming out of the Brand, coming out of the Varus right now, that's an easy pickup for them.
Very easy pickup and a much needed one to really make sure they have some fighting chance back here in game one. And so much so now that with that, they've actually got the Goldie for the first time.
Yeah, they have, that's a big swing, Skimmy, because that was almost 6,000 to 7,000 gold disadvantage. So what a Baron power play that we're not even seeing yet. We're seeing the gold lead happen before, they've really picked up the major objectives. What are Bliss going to do to counteract this Baron though? Do they want to be engaging? Because they still have the tools, they still have the damage to be able to absolutely blow up this team. So they're not out of the game whatsoever. They're going to pick up these major items, and I think that, now that we're on an even playing field, it's really exciting to see what these teams are going to do.
And it certainly is. Now we've entered that mid to late game territory, and this is when both teams should certainly be feeling a fair bit comfortable because they've done this time and time again. A few rookies amongst it, but overall, these are experts that have played this game for countless years and have done it at the highest heights imaginable. So let's see what they can do here. Down in the domestic league, there's Zenith Blaze so close to connecting.
They're out of position, Skimmy.
But have they baited them just enough? Because the cavalry has arrived. The focus is to look towards Kurak, who does miss that Call of the Forge God. Doesn't matter in the end, though. It's going to be Aladoric that gets locked in place by the Camille ultimate, but he's going to overextend himself as a result. And then 2 kills get answered back nice and swiftly. Bio hunting for the Impale. Only going to find one, but he'll be happy with that because they've finally taken down that pesky Varus.
Yeah, and look at, okay, this is, I think it's every single fight we've seen Skimmy, we've seen a different player from each team really shine. In the previous fights we saw Fido popping off, but I think this fight was all about Harry. The fissure thrown down in the choke, back to back to back, just doing so much damage, spreading the passive across multiple members, making sure he's always doing as much damage as possible. Kurak unable to get the second cast of the Call of the Forge God off, so he just doesn't have the lockdown that he needs, and we see both supports, our frontline supports going down. And once the frontline is dead, I think when we see this poke start coming out of the Bliss lineup, with the Nidley Spears, we see Kevy flashing, getting the execute, has the Zhonyas this time, so there's no trade back.
Yeah, it's a lot harder, right? And you're starting to see, as you mentioned, right, Harry actually scaling into this one, so the damage is being found, and obviously fuels the fire then for some Nidley or a Kaizen to say, well, that person's 50% out of nowhere. Easily bounce upon that one and get it all done. But unfortunately, yet again, plagued by the pauses in this series so far. Hopefully not a common occurrence as we load into game number 2. Hopefully it is all resolved by that point. And as we say, we are back into the action. So a nice quick one in that. But 25 minutes in, yet again, the gold swings all over the show. It's going to be a very interesting post-game graphic, that's for sure.
Yeah, and we do see Violet, going for the AD build. So he has gone for the on-hit build, but he's itemizing for more of this AD on-hit build, going for the Terminus. So he's got a lot more auto-attack damage. But look at this absolute, very nice job, cutting off this choke. He throws down the Spineless there, the fissures, making sure every single time someone wants to walk forward and do damage, they're burning, they're getting slowed. Every single time you overextend, it's just so hard to get out, and it's just really nice this chase down when the front line goes down from Ground Zero. The amount of power this comp from Bliss has.
It's just too much stage, right? It really is brutal. But both teams have shown that these gold leads at the best of times can be a little bit fake, and to claw back from what was fast approaching 7,000, Ground Zero have done a fantastic job to get back to a very even game. Get the Baron on top of that was certainly the icing on the cake. But their next challenge will be to potentially deny this next dragon. That would put Team Bliss on a potential point. But quick stock check of what's up and available. They could say, yeah, well, we have flashes for, Lemus as well as Zerd and Tien, but is that enough?
Yeah, and we see that they've committed 5 members to one side of the map. They don't have the power to be able to dive the base right now, which means Tien is getting alone time with these inventories. He's picking up more items. You already see the hex strength in his inventory, and I think when he picks up this more, it could mean critical mass for these team fights. We aren't seeing many pen items coming out of the Bliss side. We see the Blighting Jewel from Harry, but no Void Staffs yet. No pen items for Kevy, so this damage can be ignored as we just keep seeing more Magic Resils built by Fido.
That was your concern, right? During the what happens if you get too, it can't just beat against. The ornaments are now starting to come on through. First of all, found to buff up Fido, who's just ticked over to level 16. So max ranks in that ultimate. Going to be very happy to use that one off cooldown and a very low cooldown at just that. But the trade was really the fact that Bliss went for the Drake and TM was able to freely split push the tower top side.
Yeah, and we get to see, you know, no objectives up for a while. Baron's in 1.5 minutes. We see Bio on the side, but I think he might be too tanky for TN to take down by himself, and that's why they're committing the TP. But look at the map, Skinny. Everyone's coming.
They certainly are. Bio needs to buy as much time as he possibly can so far, playing a little bit of cat and mouse to, okay, which way am I going? Stun into the wall, buying more time. So much so that not only is Violet and Aladoric rocking up the show, but also, Way, he's TPing in. The fight breaks out. The TP from Grand Zero is too little too late. It's too far back. And the rest of Grand Zero disconnected. Tien jumps in with a last-ditch effort. Can we kill Kevy? And yes, we can. But I will have to pay the ultimate price of falling down as a result of this one. Kurak will get that shutdown in the end. They will finally take down Violet. And this is a very bloody affair. And in the end, it looks like Grand Zero will have the HP advantage. Lemus is full HP. The Pillar of Flame connects. And Shona will find his third of the game, and everybody says top lane is the place to be.
But how broken is Brand Skibby? He is 2-8, and he is doing so much damage in these team fights. I think it might be because, you know, he's into the bit that they're kind of ignoring him a bit more than they should be. They're trying to dive past him, but going to this replay, this is really, really well played by Bai. He buys so much time, you know, he gets the CC onto Fido, sorry, does so much damage, but, you know, the main thing, finds the Impale onto Fido, which means Fido can come in with the killer instinct. They try to clean it up, but I think this is the main mistake for Bliss. They're really diving in, ignoring Shonefire. Look how much damage he is outputting in these fights, whereas, you know, Violet's just walking forward and just losing all his health.
That he certainly is, and especially when they're grouped up and clumped like you can see in this replay here. It's just the absolute best case scenario for a brand, right? You know, you're just easily hitting the conflagrate, the burn is spreading, and your passive is amplified by your itemization with the Leandries and that Black Fire Torch. He's going to be the one to receive that second ornament upgrade. The Warmogs only to be found by Kurak so far. Aladoric unable to have the same level of Liberty just yet. Center route not to connect. So Aladoric jumps in. Soliflay completely whiffs, but a two-man Impale gives Violet an opportunity to take down Fido. It's going to be picked up here by Harry. And no follow-up damage is able to do much more than just that, but they've completely zoned Grand Zero out of mid lane.
He doesn't have the heal skimmy, so he falls down to the passive at the end. We thought, you know, with the Zhonya's, he finally made it out this time, but he doesn't. So we see the 2 carries plus Aladoric against the 4-man roster of Ground Zero. The Ant still has access to the Hextech Ultimate, so if they want to go forward onto the carries of Team Bliss, they absolutely can.
Let's see what both teams decide to do then. Bit of a stalemate in the mid lane as to who wants to make the first move and who is more risk adverse, because they know if anybody were to fall on down, there's a Baron waiting to be started. Grand Zero have a jungler. Kevy, well, for Bliss, has to wait another 20 seconds. It's the classic don't face check the bush cheese. Aladoric jumps in, tries to deny that of that call of the Forge God, and now Violet has to go absolutely ultraviolet mode. He'll find one, cops the Dawning Shadow, has to face tank Kurak, but then flashes and still gets stunned up by the Ornn. Absolute travesty here. It's only Biopen from a dream right now. In a 1v3, what can the Crab get done? Nothing, but give Shern a triple.
Not enough, Skimmy. Absolutely not enough. He can't really do anything there. He is a brick for his team, but look how powerful Shern is. He's fighting back in these skirmishes. He's just proving how much more important, you know, having the powerful team fight is towards the later parts of the game, because Lily just can't have the same impact that Brand can in these team fights, even though Kevy was so strong. Shern is so far ahead now.
He certainly is. I mean, I forget what his scoreline was at the start of the game, something along the lines like 05, 04. To come back to a near net positive KDA is unimaginable. Absolute Titan mentality.
Yeah, and look at these fights, Skimmy. Every single time we see Fido going down first, thanks to like really nice lockdown coming out of Bio. But it doesn't matter. Even though he's falling down, Shern's doing so much damage. We thought Kevin would be okay here with the Zhonyas that he got off, but, you know, Shern, very nice ult on the exit there. So Kevy falls down to the double burn plus the Brand passive. Doesn't have access to the heal.
Yeah, it feels really, really bad. The Zhonya is obviously fantastic for these fights, but if the fight goes on a little bit too long, the Brand stocks just go up and up and up. Nice little blast cone there to try and buy some time, but as he gets snapped right back in by the Hextech Ultimatum, Kurak is there to lock him up again. He goes golden, he now becomes grey. And a double kill is found here by Limus. And this is getting a little bit scary now because for all the early game strengths, it's actually Ground Zero now that are getting themselves a 6 to 7k lead.
Yeah, and like the scaling department of Ground Zero has come online. Limus, very unsung hero this game, having a very quiet performance, but he is so strong right now. Have to get a stack check-in on him. The ornaments are coming through from Kurak, the magic resist is coming through from multiple members, and we do have 137 souls, so, you know, he's almost on the clock for having, you know, perfect souls to center.
Can't ask for much more than that from the established AD carry player. Be put in a position to be a pseudo support, but to still output those levels. Going to be very happy if this game goes later and later. Let's see then what Ground Zero can do with their second pickup of the Baron. They've broken the base, and they are looking straight at this mid inhibitor. It's getting low, down to 10%, but they're unwilling to overcommit at this stage. You can see Fido prepping a wave in the bot lane for them to turn their attention towards next. Whilst Tien continues to group up with the team, and now Bipep thinks maybe this is my time to shine, maybe this is our moment to jump on in. Doesn't go for the Impale just yet, hits it now, but it's just a little bit too short. He's gonna die because the CC is there to punish, and Tien says without the Skarner, it's easy pickings for me now, straight into the backline. Lockstone Harry.
Violet.
That flash, it means nothing. Violet says, it's time to shine again. Can I hit that late game pop-off potential? The answer is no. And this is going to feel so bad for Bliss here because Ground Zero are looking to end.
Look at Tien's camera. He knows how badly this must feel for Bliss. The lead they had, regardless of their comp, should never mean a win for Ground Zero. Really, really well played by Ground Zero and good fortitude to be able to, you know, stick this one out and scale it out. I think this series is going to mean there's something that has to change game 2, Skivvy.
Absolutely does. I mean, this is such a game of two halves, right? If you tuned in and said, oh, 7k lead for Bliss, GG, I'll come back and look and see what happens in game number 2. No, you've missed an absolute banger here. Schönfire in particular, for me, an unsung hero, to be that far behind, to be that targeted from first blood all the way up to what was a very disastrous start by his standards, and then to bring it back and to really keep everybody in check. Phenomenal turn of events. It's everything you could ask for at the battle of the top of the table. Nobody knows what's going on, least of all us. And we'll find out what happens game number 2 right after this.